A long time ago, before I was able to find people on Grindr, I used Plan It Out. And I started talking to somebody who I thought sounded really good, maybe not for a long-term choice, but for a quick hookup. He sent me a picture. He seemed pretty hot, so I thought, hey, for one time it might be fun. So I invited him over, and he came over. Now, at the time, I lived in a really nice apartment building, and I lived right in the front, so I could look out my bedroom window and see anybody who came up to the house. Eventually a car pulled up, and I noticed there were 4 people in the car, and I thought, well, that can't be my date. Someone got out of the car and walked up to the buzzer, and suddenly I heard my intercom buzz. I couldn't quite understand why, if this was my date, and all we were doing was hooking up, why would he bring 3 friends? I went ahead and answered the intercom, and he told me it was him. Well, I opened my apartment door, and keep in mind that's my door to the apartment, not the building. I did not buzz him in. I walked out into the foyer, and I saw him, and he was not the person that I was talking to. I mean, he was the person I was talking to, but that picture, hell no, that was not him by any stretch of the imagination. I kept thinking about that, and I kept thinking about the 3 other people that had accompanied him on a hookup. I looked at him for a moment, and I just thought, this is too weird. This is way too weird. So I just turned around and walked back into my apartment. Then he kept buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, and when I pushed on the intercom, he started yelling obscenities to me, telling me that I was a faggot and he was going to kill me. I was a little scared. I mean, I wasn't extremely worried because this was a big apartment building, and if he tried to break in somehow, it wouldn't go unnoticed, but all I said to him was get away from my apartment before I call the cops. And then I said, forget that, I'm calling the cops now. And I went and dialed 911. I watched out the window as he ran back to his car with his 3 friends and drove away really fast. I told the police that, but they still came out and I had to talk to them. It seemed like some sort of baiting me. I don't know. My impression is they were gay bashers who were pretending to be gay and wanted to hurt me. I always thank heavens that I was able to look out the window and see them, and I was able to not give in when I saw it was a different person.
Number 2. Nathan. I moved to a more rural area a few years back. It was a big adjustment for me, having spent most of my life in a city. But the strangest thing for me was how different things were on Grindr. In the city, it would show me people who were in the next apartment, populated throughout the apartment building, walking by my house, just everywhere. But in this town, the closest person was about 500 yards away, the next person 2 miles, and not only that, almost all of the people that I did talk to were in the closet, and I don't date guys who are in the closet. I'm sorry if it seems a bit judgy, but I've been out of the closet for a long time and it's hard to deal with dating guys who are still in there. They have a lot to go through, and it just weighs down on me. But I did actually have one experience with a guy in the closet. I didn't know that when I began talking to him though. We talked and realized we both really enjoyed horror movies. He had never seen Phantasm before, which I found pretty shocking. So we decided to watch some movies together. I have a huge collection, but there was no way that I was letting him out of there without watching that movie. Nathan came over and we decided to watch it. It seemed pretty awkward at first and I offered him something to drink, and we sat down to watch the film. I'm a pretty talkative guy, but he didn't seem like he wanted to talk very much, and even though we were watching a movie, it was a little unnerving that he didn't want to talk at all. It was even pretty creepy. I'm sort of a passive guy. I don't make moves on guys because I always feel like I could not handle it if I made a move on a guy and he didn't want me. I'm not the best at reading signs or anything like that, so we just set the movie on, and we were chatting and watching. I caught glimpses of him, but didn't notice him trying to check me out at all. After the movie was over, he got up and said he had to go. I was a bit upset. I thought this was going to be a long night, watching a few movies, and I had no idea why he wanted to leave, but I assumed it was because he didn't like me, or didn't want to do anything with me. After he left, he sent me a text message telling me he had to leave because he thought I was cute and he liked me. This made no sense and only depressed me. I texted him back, and his answer on the Grindr app chilled me to the bone. I wasn't there to watch movies for a date. I was looking for a victim. Be happy that you're very cute and nice. I don't know how serious that was, or if he was trying to scare me. But either way, it scared me big time.
This is going to be kind of a long story, but it's a story I think I should be telling. I have this strange fetish. I'm not going to go into what the fetish is because that's not important, but it's not very common. It doesn't hurt anybody, so don't think about that. But, it's a sexual thing that I kind of sometimes have to have. So I have to find people who are into it. And in the fall of 2015, I found somebody. Now, he lived far away. His name was Tommy. And we sort of developed a liking for each other online. But we also realized that we probably would never move close together, so we really didn't have a relationship. One night when he got into a big fight with his roommates, obviously they called the police and had him arrested. He called me back and told me a story about how he wasn't trying to fight them. They were trying to fight him, and he was just trying to remain passive. I believed him, and I tried to support him. I stayed on the phone talking to him when he was outside freezing in the cold. He went through some stuff with his parents, he went through some stuff with a roommate, and he eventually moved in with some guy. And he said he was happy. But apparently after a month, the guy decided to kick him out, and he had nowhere to go. So he kind of pressured me, and I decided to let him stay here because I'm the kind of person who believes that I should do what I think is best and just for people. So I let him come stay here, and we were just supposed to be friends. Well, immediately he assumed that we were in a relationship. And honestly, the first couple days he was here, up to a week, it was actually pretty good. Then, like on the 7th day, I was up doing my work, and he started flicking things around the room. Like he would take something and throw it on the floor. He would take something and knock it off a table. And I sat there at my computer doing my work, trying not to show that I was irritated. But I finally got pissed off. But I said politely to him, "Please stop flicking things around my house." Well, he exploded on me right then. He got up, started yelling and screaming at me, and threatening to hurt me and called me a fucking piece of shit. Keep in mind, this is 1 week after I allowed him, a homeless person who nobody loved, to come and stay with me. I had a female roommate at the time, and when she heard Tommy call me a piece of shit, she came out into the living room and told him to get the hell out of the house. He started cursing at her, and he actually bit her on the finger. She smacked him then. I tried to grab him and pull him outside, and eventually when I did, I was able to calm him down. Now, I should have got rid of him right then, I know that, but he has borderline personality disorder, and so I thought at the time that maybe I should overlook that. Well, my roommate called my brother, and my brother came over. My brother being huge, like Brock Lesnar sized. And my brother grabbed him and said, "If you ever lay a finger on either of them, I'll kill you." I wrote the entire thing up to the BDP, so I put up with it. With Tommy, life was very difficult. We had some nice times, but He was constantly in demand of attention, even though I told him from the beginning I have a certain personality disorder myself, which requires me to want to spend a lot of time by myself. And further keep in mind that we weren't supposed to be in a relationship when he moved in. I was just providing him a place to stay. Well, he liked to fight like every week, and I hate fighting, so I didn't know why this was going on. It was stressful out of nowhere, and for absolutely no reasons at all, he would get up and start yelling at me. Now, I'm not the kind of person who normally puts up with that. I don't like it when people raise their voice to me, but he would do it all the time, and there would be no reason for it, even though to this day he still believes he had perfectly every right and reason to do it. Well, eventually my brother came and lived with us. Well, at that time period, they kind of got along for a while, but my brother was kind of upset about how I often put up with Tommy's yelling tendencies. Tommy was on SSI, and one day his SSI got revoked. So he grabbed a knife. He ran outside and started screaming over and over again, "Who wants to die? Who wants to die?" My brother called the police. When Tommy came back to the house, my brother stood outside and said, "You're not going back in that house." And Tommy was like, "How are you going to stop me?" My brother laughed at him and said, "You think you can get by me?" Tommy took the knife and pulled it on my brother and said, "This knife says I can." My brother, in regular form, puffed up his chest and said, "Do it." Absolutely no fear in my brother's eyes. The police came and arrested Tommy. It was a real scene, too. He was crying and begging for the cops to shoot him, and he was arrested and went to jail. Now, I did a really stupid thing during this period of time. I think I kept recalling the scene with the police. What happened when we were talking to the prosecutor? My brother told a bit of a lie. He told the prosecutor that he was scared when Tommy had pulled the knife on him. I knew that was a lie. I've known my brother all my life, and that man is not scared of anything. So like an idiot, I started going to Tommy's side, visiting him in jail, and trying my best to get him out of jail. Eventually, I was able to work with the prosecutor to have him plead guilty and get time served. Then I let him move back in. For 8 months, everything was great in our relationship. We didn't have one single fight. And I thought, maybe the time he spent in jail, maybe that changed him. But after 8 months, he fell back into the same patterns again. He would get up and start screaming in my face because maybe I wasn't paying enough attention to him, which was stupid because I was the only one paying the bills in the house, and I had to do work. I even allowed him to fool around with other guys as long as he was safe, because I didn't want him to feel alone. It was stupid me, but at least once a week he would get up on my face and start yelling and screaming at me for the stupidest fucking shit. And I normally put up with it for 2 reasons. 1, the BDP, and 2, because he is a type 1 diabetic. And he didn't take good care of himself. He let his blood sugar get really low a lot. And I know that when people's blood sugar gets really, really low, they can sometimes react like that. So I kept giving him a pass. At one point, we got into another huge fight, and my sister was about to call the cops. I don't really know what happened at that point, but he was so scared of the cops that he moved out and moved in with a neighbor. And that worked really good, because we were able to communicate, we were able to interact, and we didn't really have a problem. It was really, really good. But then one day, my first boyfriend committed suicide when he was 16 years old, but I remained in contact with his little brother for years. Well, one day, that little brother committed suicide too, and I was distraught, and I was talking to Tommy about it, trying to get some sympathy, Well, I didn't get any. I don't know what his problem was, but he started yelling and screaming at me and saying all sorts of mean stuff. And I told him, I gave you a place to live when nobody else would. I got you out of jail. You could have been in prison for up to 5 years. But my testimony helped you get out of it. I don't do these things to get anything in return. But the fact that I do these things should tell you how much I care about you. Maybe you could show me a little leniency and not get mad at me so often. And I stopped talking to him for the day. Well, I was kind of depressed, so I went and I got myself some alcohol, and I kind of got drunk and fell asleep in my bed, which is not something I do often, but it happened that night. Well, I got woken up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I heard some loud pounding on the door, and my roommate was arguing with somebody. And it was Tommy. She kept telling him to go away or she'd call the police, and he kept pounding on the door. She told him he had no right to talk to me and to go away. Now, my room and my bed are in the total back of the house, but I could hear how loud he was pounding on the door. He pounded and pounded and pounded and broke the door down, pushed my roommate out of the way, came into my bedroom, over to my bed, and started yelling and screaming to me and threatening me. I was still kind of drunk, so I was dazed and didn't know what was going on, but I had an item that he wanted that was in the house, and he wanted it, and I kept telling him to calm down so I could think, and I would try to help him find it, but he wouldn't give me time to do that. He just kept yelling and screaming and acting like a total sociopath. Eventually, I found his item and was able to give it to him, but at that point, he had totally snapped and started attacking me. He made the ludicrous comment that, "You're not strong enough to fight me." But here's the thing. He was trying to hurt me. I was not trying to hurt him. If I wanted to hurt him, he would have gone to the hospital that night. But despite all the stupidity, all the meanness, I was still trying to be the good person here. I did not want to hurt him. Eventually, I did get him in the balls good one time and pushed him away, threw his item at him, and told him to get the fuck out of my house and never talk to me again. He went out of the house. My roommate called the police. They tracked him down to his house and arrested him. Now here's how ludicrous he is. This was in 2019. To this very day, he says that he never did anything that deserves to go to jail for. Keeping in mind, he ran down the street yelling, "Who wants to die? Who wants to die?" with a knife. He pulled a knife from my brother when my brother would not let him in the house. He broke down my door, got into my bedroom, physically attacked me without any provocation. But he insists that he should have never gone to jail for anything. After all that, I still talk to him occasionally after that because I'm just a dumb person, I guess. I don't know. Maybe because he lived with me for a few years that I thought maybe there was something there still. I don't know. But recently, he did a really mean thing, and I don't want to say what that was. I've only seen him once since he got out of jail, and that was 3 years ago. But he always makes these irrational demands of me, and he hurt me really bad the other day, so I finally cut things off with him. We weren't together. I'm in a relationship right now with a wonderful, wonderful guy who treats me very, very good, and I've cut that piece of crap out of my life. But he moved in with me in 2016, and it's 2022 now, and I finally just got rid of him for good. I feel horrible for taking so much time to do it, but I'm glad he's gone. He was a real piece of trash, and I'm never going to let him anywhere near me again.
Number 4. Hookup. I got out of a long-term relationship and decided that I needed some time before getting into another one, so I decided that I could just fool around a bit here and there. That is when I decided to download the Grindr app. I can't say I was the biggest fan of the app. It seemed really impersonal, even more so than just talking to someone on the internet, but I sort of guessed it was the point. I met someone who was really, really sexy. I mean, he was exactly my type. He was a little upfront, not wanting to talk too much and just meet up really quickly, and that really wasn't what I wanted. I like to build up a bit to get me in the mood, but I figured that he was sexy enough that I could overlook that. He gave me his address, and I drove out there one night. It was out of town in an area that I had never been to before. I was led by my GPS to his house. It was sitting alone in a really dark area, and I didn't see any lights on in his place. Immediately I was creeped out and wondered if I should go home, but I was really in the mood for some fun, and he was pretty hot, so I decided to jump in and take a chance. I pulled up to the driveway and got out of the car. As I walked up to the porch, the light turned on. The door opened, and there was a guy standing there who was definitely not the hot guy I had been talking to on Grindr. He had 2 big Rottweilers with him. I was shocked and didn't know what to do in the moment, but I did take a few steps back towards my car. I actually turned to run back to it when I heard the guy yell to his dogs, "Get that guy." The fact that I had backed up before he said it helped me. I made it back to my car in the nick of time. However, the man had a baseball bat that he took out and approached the car with. I put the car into reverse and got out of there as fast as I could, which is a whole lot slower than people do in movies. But I was able to go faster than him and the dogs and get out the driveway and sped off on the road. I considered calling the police but decided it would be useless. Neither me nor my car got hurt. It would be a mine versus his word thing, so I didn't. I did, however, report him to Grindr and explain the situation as best I could. People need to be careful when meeting someone. Make sure someone knows where you're going, even if that's for a hookup.
Hey y'all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, I want to thank the legendary Mortis Media, one of the best friends anybody could ever have. I mean, he is straight as an arrow, but he supports gay rights, and he does these pride videos every year. Please give him the respect he deserves, because he is a great man. He works with me every year, and several times a year, but he's a good friend, and I can't even begin to think that anybody who is subscribed to me is not subscribed to him. But if you're not, subscribe to him, because he's awesome. Happy Pride, everybody. For anyone who's gone through any horrible gay horror experiences, I'm sorry. No one deserves to go through the things that we tell stories about. Hope you're okay. Happy Pride. I love you all. Have a great, great time.